We're rolling on episode 35 of The Rollout Show. What up, everybody? I'm Weston. I'm your host.
Did you really just start it that way?
I did, yep. I felt the urge to just, start the show.
Do you just enjoy making it difficult for me to edit the show together? Is
Absolutely.
that your goal in life?
Oh, that's 100% my goal.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks
no
a
problem.
lot, man.
I mean, I know you need something to occupy your time.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, you don't have like a full-time job or anything or
wife,
married or
you know.
anything, so, or a dog. So, I mean, I just assumed you just wanted to spend a lot of time editing the show. So, I'm
My
helping you
favorite
out.
thing to do. Thank
I'm
you.
helping you out, Bradley.
My favorite activity.
Absolutely. That's why you do it. You get to edit, and I just get to be the talent. Thanks, man.
What are we talking about today?
All right. We are talking about some NFL executive changes. We might touch on a little bit of the Ball family fiasco.
Good old balls.
And we also have some hot stove to talk about. Is Giancarlo on the move? And the Japanese Babe Ruth has picked a team. And all of us are stunned. Except for Shohei Ohtani himself. He's not stunned.
And me, because I don't really care. Okay, go on.
You should care. He's probably going to be your favorite player.
Why?
If he ends up being like an all-star hitter and pitcher, he'll be your favorite player.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, he's like
a modern-day Madison Bumgarner.
Except, like, a better hitter.
Isn't Madison Bumgarner a really good hitter?
He's a really good hitter.
Isn't he
For
the
a pitcher?
the best pitching hitter in baseball?
Technically not, because Adam Wainwright won the Silver Slugger last season. There's a lot of competition for it, though, but Madison Bumgarner does have a penchant for hitting clutch home runs for the Giants. So there's sometimes when he starts and he's actually the only runs the Giants score in that game were from
that's
himself.
Pretty impressive.
That's impressive, yes. So he's a pretty good hitter. There's a few of those guys out there. Anyway, we also have the college football coaching carousel. A few different guys and new schools. And we also have an NBA trade to announce. Jahlil Okafor is free.
Free from the clutches of the 76ers, who are actually good now.
Yeah, exactly. So, he goes from, a team that he was constantly rebuilding with to a team that's
rebuilding.
Yeah, so a good spot for Jahlil. He's used to it.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it's fine. So, let's start off in reverse order. Order of the standings. The Cleveland Browns are number one, it being bad. So
in all of sports,
in all of
human history,
1-27 over the past 2 years.
Man, remember when we said Hugh Jackson was a great hire for them because he's a really good coach?
Hey, man, I still think Hugh Jackson's a great hire. As you can see with this organizational shift that they've done to give Hugh Jackson more power.
Can you please explain to the people what organizational shift went down?
Absolutely. So the Browns have fired their vice president of strategy and personnel, which is just a fancy name for a general manager of their football team. They have fired Sashi Brown. He's gone. And within a few hours or so, they have hired the former Chiefs general manager, John Dorsey. And the Browns have a very interesting power structure as they have Paul DePodesta, who works remotely from San Diego, who has a lot of power. Him and Sashi Brown were working hand in hand. He's from Moneyball fame with the Oakland A's and Los Angeles Dodgers. And this is his first crack at working in the NFL. So far, the results have been mixed, but he has kept his job. And now there is a three-headed power structure where John Dorsey has final say over the 53-man roster. Hugh Jackson has a lot of say in personnel decisions, and Hugh Jackson and John Dorsey are working together. And DePodesta has a lot of the strategy side, looking at the analytics and digging into the numbers. But all three of them have to report to the owner who actually has the final say on the decisions.
So, a couple of things. One, of course the Browns would yet again fire an executive after 2 years.
Dude.
Because every executive they hire, they fire after 2 years.
I mean, the Browns are like the steadiest organization when it comes to personnel decisions.
Yeah, firing them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's consistent. I mean,
every time they hire someone, it's like, you're going to be gone in 2 years, right? Don't buy a place. Make sure you rent.
I mean, we're giving you a 4-year deal, but I mean, we know you're probably only going to win 7 games tops over these 2 years. So,
that's way too high. No, I will
say, a little bit of credit.
I will say, in fairness to the Browns owner, whose name escapes me,
Jimmy Haslam.
That's right. I would have fired Sashi Brown after the whole AJ McCarron debacle.
Yes,
because that was a joke. And if you don't remember that, we talked about it a few episodes ago. Basically, the Browns had a trade in place for AJ McCarron. It was done verbally, agreed upon. A couple minutes away from the trade deadline, the Bengals file their paperwork with the NFL, and the Browns don't. And then I guess they forgot. They supposedly thought only one team had to file with the NFL.
Yeah, okay.
So that's gross incompetence. So he's got to go.
And there have been multiple rumors coming out now, past few weeks, and especially since Sashi Brown has been gone. Hugh Jackson and Sashi Brown really weren't on speaking terms and did not see eye to eye on a lot of things. Where Hugh Jackson was really high on Carson Wentz and wanted to draft him, and then Sashi Brown traded the picks, which, I mean, ended up working out in some respects. They got a lot of picks for him, but it didn't work out.
The Sashi Brown specifically is drafted horribly.
And
again, another thing like this firing was justified. They've had so many picks the last 2 years, and they have like 2 good players from it. They have Myles Garrett, who's very good and will be very good. They have Corey Coleman, who, if he can stay healthy, he's a really solid number 2 wide receiver in football.
Right.
But other than that, the other like 20 draft picks they've had over the last 2 years, because they've had a bunch of picks,
are kind of so
horrible. Like, not good.
Peppers is probably the worst. Yeah,
Peppers. And a lot of teams thought this was going to happen with Peppers. He's a guy that
doesn't have a position.
He's too slow to play safety, but he's too small to play linebacker. It's sort of like the Mark Barron thing, but the Rams actually figured out how to use Mark Barron.
But Mark Barron's also like bigger and thicker than Peppers is.
Which Peppers could still grow into his body. He's still like 24 years old, to be fair to Peppers.
Right. It's just like, because Barron is over like 6 feet tall and everything, so he was pretty big for a safety to begin with. It's just, in the NFL, his speed was really exposed. So.
And Mark Barron is not amazing. Like, the Rams have really done a good job figuring out how to use him, but he's not great. He's a role player, and that's probably all Peppers will ever be. Okay, so...
And that's... and I also want to like wait on Njoku or whatever, because it's really tough for rookie tight ends.
That's a good call. Njoku is actually...
He's
solid.
Very talented. It's just it's tough for rookie tight ends to really make a difference their first year, especially on a squad like the Browns. That's just there's a lot of different things going on there.
He was great last week. Watching the red zone, we saw him a bunch. He made a lot of really athletic catches. Njoku's good. You're right. I'd forgotten about him.
We'll just do a wait and see approach with him. The talent's there. So
regardless, once again, the Browns firing an executive. The other thing I would like to know is how often does the owner having final say over all decisions work out?
I mean, clearly he knows everything, so that has to work out.
I would say the Cowboys in the 90s were an anomaly.
Well, yeah.
As they've not been able to reproduce that success.
I mean, they've had good stretches of success, but just not like where they're the standard of the NFL.
Have they won a playoff? They've won, what, one playoff game since that 90s stretch? Tony Romo
they've won like 2.
Didn't Tony Romo only win one playoff game?
Not necessarily all his fault, but I think he won one playoff game.
They didn't win a playoff game last year because they lost to the Packers in the divisional round because they had a first round bye.
That's right. Yeah, they did have the first round bye. So
I think they've
because they beat the Lions. I know that's
right. I think that's Tony Romo's only playoff victory. I think so.
Yeah, you might be right. He may have won another one, but
with the Des Bryant catch, no catch.
Right, and then because Des Bryant because the Lions got robbed on a catch in the end zone, which gave the Cowboys the win, and then the Cowboys lost the following week over the catch no catch thing with
the
Des
same
Bryant.
rule that had just given them the victory
Yes.
against Megatron and the Lions.
Exactly. So I don't know if he'd won, because I don't have the stats right in front of me. He may have won one first-round game like before then or something. I know they never made it to the NFC title game, though.
How many playoff games did Tony Romo win?
Well, while Bradley is searching that, the Browns brought in John Dorsey because there is one thing he did really, really well with the Chiefs, and he drafted extremely well.
Which is what the Browns need to start being able to do.
Because the one knock on John Dorsey is that he had kind of like a loose management style, and he wasn't necessarily the best at managing the cap, but that's kind of why you have like DePodesta in there. And also, the Browns really don't have to manage the cap because they have over $100 million in salary cap space. So, I mean, that's not really an issue.
No, and they're actually, if we remember, think back, the Brock Osweiler situation. It was brilliant.
I loved that.
You take on a little extra money because you have the cap space for a draft pick. That's such an NBA
100%.
baseball type move. It's brilliant. And
shout out to DePodesta.
Assuming he was the one that put that together. That was a great move, but the problem is then they have that draft pick and they don't do anything with it.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I don't even know who they ended up picking with that pick.
Well,
or no,
it's
not yet. My bad.
Come on.
Sorry.
Keep it together, man.
Sorry, I got my timeline mixed up.
Come on.
I mean, there's just a lot of draft pick transactions with the Browns. The
Browns, they missed on Goff. They missed on Wentz.
Deshaun Watson.
They missed on Watson. They've missed on so many quarterbacks. Do they draft a quarterback this year?
I think they have to, because Hugh Jackson and Dorsey, the first move John Dorsey made as general manager of the Browns was straight up cutting Kenny Britt, which is basically Hugh Jackson decided he wasn't going to play him anymore at all. He can't stand Kenny Britt.
He played horribly this year.
No, he played for a contract.
He got big money because he had a really good season with the Rams last year, and he's been horrible
and
this year.
Most teams kind of got the impression that Kenny Britt was playing for a contract, so if you gave him a big contract, he was going to coast. And honestly,
that's exactly what happened.
We've seen that this year. So I didn't really think too many teams were out there looking to give Kenny Britt a 4-year deal.
Yeah, and an overpaid 4-year deal at that. The John Dorsey thing, it's a good move. He's, by all accounts, and everyone that I've heard, is a really solid GM. The problem is this owner saying that he has to have final decision over everything. It's never a good idea, because you know what billionaires think? They think that they're always right.
Yep.
You know, like, I know how to run my team better than you do. So,
and and Jimmy Haslam hasn't necessarily shown that he can separate emotion with football personnel decisions.
At least Jerry Jones really does understand the game of football.
Yes.
I can't say the same about Haslam. Like, Jerry Jones, despite, maybe having too much power in his team, he knows football. He gets the game.
He does.
He's been a GM for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
I mean, he better get the game at this point. It's the Browns, man. I feel bad for the Browns fans out there.
I mean, just think about how bad it's been for Browns fans. I mean, you see your team leave for Baltimore, and then that team win a Super Bowl that you've been trying for forever.
Bill Belichick
and Nick Saban on the same staff.
You had Bill Belichick, man.
And did you know that there was a stat that came out, somebody tweeted out, that Bill Belichick still has the most wins for the Browns over like the past 20 years.
Yeah, he
got fired.
He took the Browns to the playoffs. The playoffs. Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time in NFL history, was on the Browns, and what do? They fire him. Such a Browns thing to do.
Hey,
Next thing you know, they're going to cut Kaiser, and he's going to turn into the greatest quarterback of all time. It's horrible.
You know what? I see so many similarities it's not quite as bad down here, but Bucks and Browns seem to do things like that.
The Bucks. Don't
Like
even get
the
me
Bucks,
started.
the Bucks will cut a quarterback, he blossoms into a star. Steve Young, Doug Williams, things like that. And then also, you fire a coach who's been very successful, and then you barely sniffed the playoffs since. Like you fire Gruden, and you haven't gotten close.
Dirt cutter, man.
It's just
What a horrible coach.
You keep spinning your wheels. There's like some light at the end of the tunnel, and then it's like the door slams on you.
What a horrible coach.
I mean, he's got some good qualities, I'm sure.
He's a bad coach.
I mean, that's kind of what happens when you get afraid somebody else is going to hire your offensive coordinator as a head coach. So then you panic and you fire your very solid head coach and promote your offensive coordinator who may or may not be ready to be a head coach. But hey, to each their own. Owners know everything.
So in conclusion, the Browns. I'm sorry if you're a Browns fan.
Sorry. Hopefully things will get better. I mean, you have a guy who seems to be good at running drafts. So
at this point, I don't know if Hugh Jackson's a good coach, man.
I think Hugh Jackson's a good coach.
I thought he was.
I still believe in Hugh. I have to believe in Hugh. I mean,
I hope you're right, man.
And Jimmy Haslam, actually, I mean, for what it's worth, he committed to Hugh for next season. He said, look, this isn't just a 2018 move. I believe in Hugh Jackson for the long term. So we'll see. I mean, that could also change tomorrow when, I don't know, Jimmy Johnson decides he wants to be the Browns head coach.
I don't think that's happening.
I mean, I don't either, but I mean, we've seen weirder things happen before.
Haslam is very fickle.
Well,
very
yeah.
Fickle.
And he's also the top Tennessee booster. There you go.
And yet traded out of the Alvin Kamara pick.
Oh, ouch.
The upcoming rookie of the year. Good job. There you go. There's
Vols
another,
alum.
The Browns.
Yep. Ooh.
Not only did they miss on Carson Wentz and Jared Goff and Deshaun Watson, they missed on Alvin Kamara in the third round. Wasn't even a reach. Third
And they
round's a good
traded
spot to get a really good running back.
And they traded the pick away to the Saints. So now the biggest Tennessee Vols fan you've probably ever met, who pumps more money into that school than anybody else. The business school is named after the man, is sitting there watching the Vols running back win Rookie of the Year for the Saints with the draft pick that the Browns had. I think that really was
Typical
what did
Browns.
Sashi Brown in.
Typical Browns. Oh, God. All right. Let's stop hating on the Browns.
We'll stop hating on the Browns and move to a different organization that has shown a lot of dysfunction lately, the New York Giants.
Oh, my goodness. So we didn't get to this last week, but last weekend, McAdoo decided that he wanted to roll with Geno Smith. He's young-ish, we're looking ahead to next year. We're obviously out of it this year. Let's see what we got in the young guy.
But we aren't tanking.
Not tanking.
Not
Always
tanking
trying
at
to
all.
win.
Integrity. Yeah.
No tanking. So they go to Eli. McAdoo goes to Eli, and he says, look, I know you have this really long, impressive 210-game streak of games started, third highest in NFL history by a quarterback,
right
behind his brother and Brett Favre. And he says, I'll let you start the game, but then I'm going to pull you and put Geno Smith in so we see what the young guy's got. Eli says, no. If I play a game, I'm going to play it. You don't
I'm
pull
finishing
me out.
the game. Right.
You don't pull me out. I'm Eli Manning.
I'm a future Hall of Famer. I've won 2 Super Bowls.
I'm the greatest quarterback in the history of this franchise. Okay. That's kind of saying something about the franchise, but anywho, we'll get to that later. And Ben McAdoo says, okay, you're benched. What? What?
Benching Eli Manning? Are you kidding?
What? You're not going to win anyway.
This is the thing, though. For Geno Smith, who could not win the starting job with the Jets.
Over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, actually, technically, he did win that starting job. Then he got punched in the
hurt.
face.
Yeah.
Broke his jaw. Anyway, it's not even like it was a rookie or a second or third year quarterback. It's a guy who's proven in the league. He's played significant time in the league and not been good.
And it's not like he's like a young draft prospect or anything either. He's signed to be the backup quarterback. He knew he was coming in as the backup, and
he was happy to have a job.
Exactly. So you end the streak. I mean, a future Hall of Famer who adores that organization, like has never thought any reason for leaving. Then you come out and say, well, no, Eli's still our quarterback going into 2018. We just want to see what Geno Smith's got, and also we're not tanking. We're not tanking at all.
And then what happens? What probably should have happened several weeks ago. Ben McAdoo gets fired. Eli's the starter again.
And Jerry Reese. Broken. And Jerry Reese is also just complete cleaning house that organization. Just done.
There's a lot wrong with the Giants. One, Eli isn't that good anymore. They're going to cut him this offseason. I would bet money on it. They have no running back in a league where every team has 3 good running backs. They somehow don't have one.
Yeah, they don't have one, and then they've been high on Paul Perkins for so long, and he's just...
In a league where the Browns have 2 pretty decent running backs, in Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson is legit.
Oh, yeah.
That dude's actually legitimately good. Isaiah Crowell is okay. How do you not have a running back in this league?
I mean,
every team has 2 good running backs.
Darkwa is okay. I was just saying okay.
4. The Patriots have 4 running backs.
That's an anomaly right now because, I mean, the Patriots could trot me out there at running back and I'd be successful.
The Bengals have 2 good running backs. The Bucks have 2 decent running backs. Peyton Barber's legit. He played really well last week, and we know Doug Martin's pretty good. The Jets have 3 pretty good running backs.
I mean, the Saints have 2 running backs that are going to top 1,500 yards. I mean, the Giants, I mean, you have some issues. Your best running back of the past few years has been Rashad Jennings, who basically quit football to do Dancing with the Stars and just said, no thanks, I'm not coming back.
What are the worst teams in the league? The Browns, they have 2 good running backs.
The Browns, Niners, they have a solid running back.
Carlos Hyde's really good.
Really good. Giants, nobody.
No. It's
I mean,
horrible.
even the Dolphins have 2 young, promising running backs. Kenyon Drake is legit.
And they had a stud that they traded away. Kenyon Drake's been great. Damian Williams has been really good. And Ajayi's a beast. The Eagles have like 5. The Eagles have so many great running backs. Ajayi, who's a top 10 running back in football, only gets like 10 touches a game.
LeGarrette Blount, just a bruiser.
Clement is really good.
Off the scrap heap.
I mean, come on, Giants. Their O-line's trash. Somehow
they haven't drafted well.
Somehow their defense went from worst in the league to best in the league to worst in the league again.
Everybody on the defense keeps getting suspended by McAdoo at the time because he had lost the locker room, but they still kept trotting McAdoo out there and giving him the vote of confidence. Honestly, it started seeming like McAdoo was just trying to get in the press and just basically it was like a power struggle. It was weird how everything was cratered, and it was with veterans too. It wasn't young guys.
And why would you think the Maras? The Giants have always been a no-nonsense organization.
In New York, which is tough to do.
And why would you think that was going to fly with the Maras? Like, because they're pretty hands-off. Like, which is how I think an organization should be run, where you buy your team, you get football people who know what they're doing, which they had for a while in Jerry Reese. I think he was there for like 11 years.
I think like 14, actually. He's been all the way through that organization.
And you let them do their thing. When the Maras get wind of what's going on and fire you personally, like...
That's saying a lot.
And, look, looks shouldn't have anything to do with, like, getting jobs, but the fact that Ben McAdoo doesn't look like an NFL head coach is really gonna hurt his chances of getting another job.
He's kind of a laughing stock. Shout out to the Lebitard show, but I mean, he's really a laughing stock, honestly.
Ridiculous.
I mean, he seems decent in some facets of the game, but it's just this whole Giants debacle, like this season on its own, because they were expected to be a playoff contender.
Well, because they had a surprisingly good season last year. They went 10-6, made the playoffs, had a good chance to beat the Packers if Odell and Sterling Shepard.
You had that great defense that was a deep defense too, and then you added Brandon Marshall to Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard, which you thought was going to be a force.
Oh, I thought Brandon Marshall was going to have a career year.
I did too. And that's a guy I feel really bad for. I mean, that guy can't play on a winner. It's so unfortunate for him. Every team he's on, it just seems to tank.
Yeah.
And it's
one good year with the Jets, but other than that,
and
it's
then
been tough.
they miss the playoffs by a game, and then oh man. Hopefully, if he decides to come back and not retire, hopefully he gets a shot with another organization.
I think he's gonna retire, man.
I don't know. I could see him signing with the Patriots or something this time around because the Patriots called, and if they call again, I think he's no doubt going to take the call.
Get that man a ring. Come on, get that man a ring.
Get that man a ring. But also, I don't know if Bill Belichick would bring him in. Just looking at his history, like, well, I mean, he's a good guy, good player. But everything bad happens wherever team he goes to.
He's got a lot of bad juju around him. A lot of bad juju.
A lot of bad juju. We can't handle that.
A lot of bad juju Smith-Schuster.
Ayo.
Yeah. McAdoo, get out of here. I don't even think he was a good offensive coordinator.
It was just Tom Coughlin and good personnel.
He got all the credit for getting Eli's interceptions down, but the year that Eli's interceptions were down was also Odell's rookie year.
Yeah.
I think that may have had a tad more to do with it.
And honestly,
you get a generational talent, it's going to help your football team.
And some of the rumblings coming out, though, were that Jerry Reese also wasn't really sold on McAdoo, so maybe their working relationship wasn't that great. But
it was a bad hire. You rush a Hall of Famer and Tom Coughlin out of town, who's a proven good football coach, to hire
who still wants
Ben
to
McAdoo.
coach. And then now you see, I mean, I don't know if he deserves all the credit for what's happening down in Jacksonville, but he has kind of turned the tides in Jacksonville to this point.
He absolutely doesn't deserve all the credit, but
he deserves a good chunk. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. It's a lot of the inside baseball kind of stuff where he was brought in as president of football operations. We don't actually know how much he's doing, like how much control he has over decision making. Like, was it his idea to sign Calais Campbell?
I think he gets the final say.
Whoever's decision that was a great decision.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a beast.
He's a monster.
Whose idea was it to sign AJ Boye to have arguably the best duo of cornerbacks ever? I mean,
that secondary is sick.
Their two cornerbacks might be like the second and third best corners in the league.
Yes. And they're young, too. Very young.
I mean, Jalen Ramsey's still on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
This was his third year in the league, second
year. And
Boye
is, what, 25? Yeah, because he was, like, undrafted or something, right?
Yeah. This was Boye's first big contract.
And that's, Jacksonville looks good. And
if only they had a quarterback, man.
You know, Eli, you know, Jacksonville's a nice place to live, you know, for a football season. Nice weather. You know Tom Coughlin's going to vouch for Eli. That's his guy.
Yes. But I don't know. I don't think Blake Bortles is very good. I think he is at times he has flashes.
Yeah,
of
he
brilliance,
shows flashes. Absolutely.
But most of the time he's hot garbage. Eli's been really bad. Even last year when the Giants had a good year, Eli was bad.
Yeah, he didn't take the next step.
And Eli's kind of not been great his whole career. Can we get into this really quick?
No.
Eli has had two of the best playoff runs of all time. That's
all you need.
And he took down Goliath in 2007.
And really Goliath again. I mean, he's 2-0 versus the Patriot. I couldn't think of the year.
I think it was I was going to say 2011. That was the year Brady got hurt. It was 2013, right?
I think.
Wait. Oh God, no.
Now, come on.
Okay.
Was it 2012?
Giants.
I think it's 2012.
Oh yeah, because then Brady came back. No, wait.
Just look it up.
Okay.
Wow. Sorry, guys. We're really prepared today.
Let's see. Giants, Patriots, Super Bowl.
Because there was 07, and then
07 was the Goliath year.
Yes.
That was the year where the Patriots were the greatest team in NFL history and got beat in the Super Bowl.
Right. And I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for that. That's why I always said that if it's a playoff game and I need to win one game, give me Eli over Peyton. Because, I mean, you can dispute it all you want, but there's something about the big games that bring out the best in Eli.
It was the 2011 season. The game was played in 2012.
Okay, that's why we were kind of confused, so that works.
Yes, But outside of those two stretches, Eli hasn't been that good. Like, his reliability is impressive. Like, your ability to not get hurt, some of that's dumb luck, but some of that is like, you have to know how to position your body. You have to know to stay out of trouble, like keep yourself out of danger.
Exercise, things like that.
Keep your body in shape. It's not a fluke that Brett Favre played for 20 years and never got hurt. Like,
well, and then look at some of the O-lines Eli's played with. He's never had a great O-line.
Not good. But I don't even know if Eli's a Hall of Famer, man.
Oh, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a surefire Hall of Famer.
He's probably a Hall of Famer because he took down that 2007 team.
Well, if you win 2 Super Bowls, you're a Hall of Famer. I mean, his longevity and everything, he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
So if the Ravens win another Super Bowl, you think Joe Flacco's a Hall of Famer? If the Ravens somehow make a run this year? Because the last Super Bowl that Joe Flacco won, he was a beast.
Maybe. There's
no way.
I mean, that's the NFL Hall of Fame is different than like other leagues like baseball and everything, where it's like you really have to have superb longevity and everything, because like, look at it. Basically Romo should be a Hall of Famer, but people are going to discredit
I would vote Romo in before I voted Eli in.
But if you had to ask people who's more of a Hall of Famer, Eli or Romo, they're going to say Eli. Because Eli won 2 rings and 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Yes, but I would hope that the people who actually vote for the Hall of Fame aren't that stupid.
Well, you can see
it's
the
too
different.
Shallow. You if I walked up to someone who knew football and asked them if you could have them in their primes, who would you rather have, Eli or Tony Romo? And they told me Eli, I would slap them in the face.
Honestly, there'd be a lot of people who tell you Eli.
They're wrong.
I mean,
they're just wrong.
But that's the thing. Like, you see it with different examples. Like, I love Joe Namath.
Fluky, man.
I love Joe Namath, but Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame because he won.
He's probably the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame.
But I mean, you see different examples of guys like, well, he's a proven winner, Super Bowl winner. He's got so many different rings, but then you compare his stats to somebody who didn't win, who isn't in the Hall of Fame, and they don't look as good.
I agree with you that Eli is probably going to get into the Hall. He's definitely going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, it's everything that comes with Eli. It's the Manning legacy family.
Absolutely.
It's beating the Patriots twice. It's the only 2 blemishes on Tom Brady's Super Bowl record.
It's making a run in the playoffs where he is otherworldly, because his teams were, those 2 years where they won the Super Bowl, they basically squeaked into the playoffs.
Yeah, but especially 2007, that D-line was historically great.
Oh, it was.
They held the greatest offense in NFL history to 14 points. Like, that was all on the defense.
But we also have to give that a lot of credit to the defense, but Eli also made the plays he had to make to win the game.
Well, Eli made arguably the most famous play in NFL history, the helmet
because
catch.
I remember sitting there and
I
wasn't.
Like, he's sacked. It's over. Game over.
I thought he was sacked like 2 or 3 times in that play, and somehow Eli Manning, who you didn't really expect to be too mobile because you compare him to his brother, his brother would have been a pile of bricks right there. But I mean,
his brother would have found the open check down man who would have ran for 15 yards and a first down.
Well, I mean, his brother would have coached him up and just completely switched the play or something. But I mean, anyway,
gotta check your protection, Eli. What are you doing?
Oh gosh. But anyway, that's just a phenomenal play, and
oh yeah,
it's historic. I mean, I can still picture it right now. He's spinning around. There's like guys all around him. He just throws it up in the air and he catches David Tyree, who
and that is part of his resume. My argument against that, knowing that he's going to get in, is one play shouldn't make your whole career. Like,
shout out to Doug Flutie.
Russell Wilson does that weekly. You know, Doug Flutie's a great example.
I mean, a guy you probably don't know, Bill Mazeroski's in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he made one play really his entire career. He had a solid overall career, but he had a walk-off home run in Game 7 of the World Series to win it for the Pirates, and he got in the Hall of Fame.
That's part of it. I mean, part of the Hall of Fame, if we remember, the Hall of Fame's a museum. And especially that 2007 Giants team is as historic a team as there's been. So by that standard, Eli's a Hall of Famer.
Exactly. And honestly, some of the arguments to discredit people who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, I think, especially the Baseball Hall of Fame, I think they should open it up a little bit. to some different guys, especially as more analytics come out about different people that they should actually be in the Hall of Fame. If it wasn't like 20 years or something, but you had a nice solid 6 or 7 years of sustained dominance where nobody could touch you, I think you should be in the Hall of Fame.
We've talked about this with the NFL before. Patrick Willis probably won't get in the Hall of Fame.
And he absolutely should.
If you are the best at your position for more than a couple years, you're a Hall of Famer.
Well, he was the standard. He was the linebacker everybody was watching.
He was the best inside linebacker in the NFL for like 4 years. That should get you into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Like, on its own. When you're considered better, arguably, than Ray Lewis. And the only reason you aren't historically considered great is because you decided to retire early to save your body.
It's kind of like Megatron. Exactly.
Megatron was the best receiver in football for like 7 years.
And then you look at his numbers and he didn't have the longevity and he also didn't win. That's another component of it. And you're like, well, might not get in. It's like he absolutely should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. The only time in the NFL where you should get discredited for not winning is if you're the quarterback. Because all the other positions, you're only doing a fraction. At least the quarterback has a big impact on how good your team is. All the other positions, you're just a fraction. Like if you're Megatron and you're triple covered because the team doesn't have anyone else for Matt Stafford to throw the ball to, so Matt Stafford has to force it to you. It's the only time I've ever seen 2 players press coverage a guy was Megatron in the red zone.
Hey, man, Titus Young was a solid complimentary receiver.
Come on, man.
Matt Stafford should find the open man. Gosh.
Agreed, but come on. Anyway, the Giants are in shambles. They're going to tank. They're going to draft a quarterback. They'll be good again soon because it's a well-run organization from the top, so they'll be fine.
They should be fine, and honestly,
I'm not worried about them like I am the Browns.
Their decision to fire Reese and McAdoo pressured the Browns to get Dorsey done now because I think
Dorsey
they decided
would be working for the Giants.
Yeah, otherwise Dorsey'd probably be with the Giants. Haslam caught wind of that, and he's like, "Nope, we're ending this today. Fire Brown, hire Dorsey." Hey.
If you're going to fire Brown anyway, just do it now.
I mean,
get someone else started on the scouting process because
absolutely.
We only got 5 months till the draft. It's scouting season.
And since Dorsey got fired, you didn't have to wait and interview other candidates. I mean, you just go ahead and interview them and just get the deal knocked out and let's hit the ground running. So the Giants, you should be fine. It'll just be interesting to see. The Giants usually don't have a whole lot of turnover.
It's the first time since 2004 that they're going to have an uncertain quarterback situation.
Right.
And we'll see.
Really uncertain.
They chose a good year to do it. They have several options.
And they're going to have a top pick. And if I had to just guess, I'm going to say Josh Allen. For some reason, that's sticking out in my gut.
Well, if their pick is probably going to be third, they'll probably if it goes. I think if it stands how it is today, it's Browns 1, 49ers 2, Giants 3rd. Although the 49ers might start winning now because Jimmy G looked real good last week.
Yeah, he did.
He threw one pick that absolutely wasn't his fault because he threw a dart to his receiver and his receiver popped it up like an idiot.
Yep.
Jimmy G looked real good. So they might start winning some games.
Well, and also that would take them out of the quarterback carousel of the top 3 guys if they're committed to Jimmy G, which it looks like they would be if they traded for him. He looks good.
The beauty, though, of having a quarterback and having a top pick this year is all the teams around you are going to be drafting quarterbacks. You get your pick of the litter.
Well, it's what they did last year.
Who is basically, I mean, the Browns got Myles Garrett, who was probably number 1 on their board. But they were next, essentially. So who is your favorite player in this class? He's yours at like the 4th or 5th pick. You don't have to worry. If you want to trade back, you can.
And some good draft capital. I mean, just trade back or just go ahead and take your guy. But
that's the other thing, though. If you're at like pick 3 and Rosen and Sam Darnold are taken and Josh Allen is there and a team like, I don't know, what's a team that needs a quarterback but isn't going to be in the top?
Jags.
The Jags, maybe they're really high on Josh Allen. All of a sudden, hey, we'll send you a first and
a
Chris
second
Ivory
next year or something.
I mean, you can get a nice little package for that. the 49ers are in a great spot. I'd be real pleased if I was a 49ers.
It's making John Lynch look real good.
Jimmy G is legit.
Anyway, so moving on, I'd like to try to forego talking about the balls as much as we can. So we're going to move on to the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. What up?
We're not going to talk about the balls. Not. Very quickly.
Quickly talk about the balls.
If you aren't aware, LiAngelo got caught. The middle ball, got caught.
Gosh dang it.
That's how I'm going to refer to him, as the middle ball.
Middle ball.
He got caught shoplifting in China when he was with UCLA playing an exhibition game, and got arrested. And the U.S. government got him out, and now he's back, and he's leaving UCLA to work on his game.
And apparently LeVar was upset at Steve Alford for suspending LiAngelo Ball, which is strange because, I mean, if you get arrested for shoplifting in a foreign country, you should probably be suspended from the basketball team, but that's just my personal opinion.
So LeVar, I don't know if, I don't see, the problem is the reports you see are LeVar Ball pulls LiAngelo out of UCLA. Well, LiAngelo is an adult. It's his decision. He's 19 years old, 20 years old, something like that. Probably 19. LeVar can't just pull him out. So it's interesting how much power LeVar really has over their situation, and maybe he should stop being so controlling.
That's the thing. It's like LeVar is honestly the one out there that's speaking. He's the one out there speaking for him, and the way he's making it sound like, yeah, we're looking at other options for Jello out there, and we're talking to some teams overseas, but just saying he's out of there. And
it sounds like Adrian Wojnarowski reported that none of the executives he's talked to even have LiAngelo on their big board.
No, there's zero chance of him getting drafted.
He's not going to get drafted. He's not going to be in the NBA. He's going to go play on a D League somewhere so they can drum up a little bit of hype.
That's even what I saw. They said maybe considered for a G League team, just exactly for
a G
hype.
League team will sign him to get people in to watch G League games.
The South Bay Lakers welcome LiAngelo Ball.
It can happen. And then LaMelo, who's supposedly really good, I think he's ranked 7th in this year's recruiting class, or next year's recruiting class.
Right, because he's only 16 still.
He's not even going to be able to play in college because he's got a shoe deal.
Yeah, exactly.
There's reports of maybe they're going to go play on a foreign team for a couple years before they're ready for the NBA. It's a weird situation. Lonzo, slowly and surely, is not playing well. His shot is horrible. He's shooting like trash. Everything you feared. And it's weird because you watch his highlights. He's still an amazing passer.
Oh, he is.
What you knew he was good at.
His rebounding is phenomenal for a point guard.
He's a gifted passer. He really is.
But it's looking like he's more of a Rondo than he is a Russell Westbrook or something.
But he can't play defense.
Yeah.
He's more a worse Rubio.
Yeah. He's at least Rubio's really gifted offensively.
He can't score off the dribble. He's not even scoring off catch and shoot. He's not playing well. Other than his assist numbers are pretty decent because he's a great passer. We'll see.
Did you want to hear a stat I saw the other day?
Please.
Lonzo Ball's free throw percentage is worse than Jason Tatum's 3-point percentage.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That just shows you that's bad.
Jason Tatum is a beast.
Jason Tatum is really, really good and plays on a great team. When you play with Kyrie, that helps you out a lot. But it's just to go to show you how bad Lonzo's shooting. Even from the line, his shooting's worse than Jason Tatum from 3.
It's real bad.
Oof.
So it sounds like the Ball family will be out of our lives here shortly.
We can hope.
I hope those kids do okay because their dad has I'm not going to question anyone's parenting or anything like that. He's put a lot of pressure on those boys who, at least Lonzo, we haven't really seen LaMelo, but at least Lonzo looked like he had a decent future in the NBA as a role player. He could actually play in the league for a number of years. but because of this target painted on his back by LeVar and by Magic Johnson. Let's not forget that.
Magic Johnson's helped pumped him up a lot too, and trading away D'Angelo Russell, who's a promising prospect.
Who's playing really well this year with Brooklyn.
Exactly. And you trade away the former number 2 overall pick to bring in your own number 2, who you view as in the mold of yourself. So you put the expectations that he's the next Magic Johnson. He's an LA guy and everything. Big point guard, rebounds, passes well and everything. He's going to score a lot. And then the next star of the Lakers. And that's just a lot of pressure on a guy in his hometown, especially for that team, and combined with his dad trying to use his fame to kind of pump everything else up.
And the other thing not to forget is that LeVar pulled LaMelo out of school to homeschool him, which means he's not going to be schooled for the next couple of years, which means basketball is his only shot at success. Or his only
unless a shoe deal takes off, and then he's got.
Well, the shoe deal will take off if he takes off.
Well, yeah, unless there's like a lot of people that are just out there and really like a shoe, but yeah, there's some of the novelty of. No, it's not. It's not.
He needs. The Le Batard show ordered shoes when they first came out, and they still haven't gotten them. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, that's because they were supposed to be done in November for like Black Friday or something, but at least that was the rumors because they make each one by hand or something. I don't know.
It's horrible, man. Horrible. I just hope those kids land on their feet. Lonzo will be fine. Lonzo can play in the league. It's the other two I'm concerned about. Because LiAngelo threw away a free education. As much as we've argued the last couple of weeks about
it's still an education.
The true value of a free education, it's better than nothing.
Exactly.
It's still a way for you to better your life and to figure out what you want to do with your life and then go do it. LiAngelo doesn't have that now. He has basically no NBA prospects and brothers that are better than him at the sport, and a dad that won't shut up.
A dad that won't shut up, and everybody comparing you to your brothers.
I would be concerned about LiAngelo's future.
I really am
I don't
too.
want to speculate about that kind of stuff, but I would be concerned. I just hope he lands on his feet. I hope he's okay.
I hope he is too. We can hope for the best for him, but that's the As the Ball Turns. That's the most recent episode. The soap opera of the Ball family.
It's actually called Ball in the Family, and it is their reality show with Facebook videos.
Oh, okay, well, we're going to refer to it on the Rollout show as The Ball Turns because I came up with it.
Don't disrespect Facebook, though. It's called Ball in the Family.
Sorry.
And it's their reality show about their family.
I must have missed last week's.
The Kardashian show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's their version. It's called Ball in the Family.
I'm sure it's real good.
It's probably trash.
I just have no interest in watching it. I'm gonna hear about what happens anyway through ESPN.
LeVar Ball doesn't shut up about it.
Exactly. I mean, the Lakers have to institute a rule that you can't interview guests of players because LeVar just kept talking and everybody would go up.
LeVar Ball was on CNN. He was on CNN.
Man, that is a rise to fame, though. Just think about that. Your son is a good college prospect and a top NBA prospect, and then you go from that to you're always on camera because you just say a lot of things.
Because he's entertaining.
Yeah, he's entertaining.
Because he says a lot of wild things, and people like wild things.
In a very passionate tone.
He's the physical incarnation of clickbait.
Yeah, good call.
Thank you.
He should market himself as that, I'm the real clickbait.
If only he had big boobs and was in a bikini. That would be the only more clickbaity thing.
Wearing something that says, shocker, these 5 facts you never knew about your favorite TV show in 1975. What they look like today. Things like that.
What they look like today, and then it shows the one hot one. So you're like, oh, the rest of them are going to be hot, and they're all not
Or
hot.
the one I get a lot is shocking news, Joanna tells all why she's leaving Chip for Fixer Upper on HGTV fame.
Of course you get that.
Hey, well, I watch HGTV.
Yeah,
so, shout out to Fixer Upper. Anyway, so the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes.
Do not shout out HGTV on my show.
Love you guys. Sign me up. Love to have a trip to Waco. We can do the pod together. Shout out to Magnolia Homes. Anyway, Come on, Chip Gaines would be entertaining as heck talking about Baylor football.
Can we move
All right,
on?
anyway, so Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. The Japanese Babe Ruth. He was coveted by every single team in the league, all made video pitches to him, tried to meet with him, set up different scenarios to get him to come to their organization. A lot of people speculated, not knowing any reason why, but everybody's like, oh, he's going to the Yankees, shocking. And then the Yankees didn't even make the first round of cuts. So he basically limited his search to West Coast teams and narrowed it down to 7, being the Mariners, the Angels, Padres, Dodgers, Giants, and he also had the Cubs and Rangers involved. And he ends up shocking the world and picking the Angels. A lot of us, myself included.
The Angels, man.
I honestly don't know.
How many players are they going to luck into?
They kind of lucked into Justin Upton and convinced him to stay, which was kind of shocking.
Mike Trout?
Lucked into Mike Trout, yeah. Albert Pujols, he's not what he used to be, but he's still productive. He ended up signing there out of left field. Honestly, out of left field, he ended up signing there. And I don't know. Now they have, he's going to be entertaining to watch, but according to his agents, he really felt a connection with the Angels organization, and he really wanted to go someplace where there wasn't an existing Japanese star or one in the past, and also maybe a smaller media market where he's still in LA, but the Angels aren't as big as exactly. They're in the LA area, but Anaheim's really over an hour outside of Los Angeles, but they're still the LA Angels. So he gets to play there. He gets to play with the best player in the world. So that has to be appealing to him. Mike Scioscia is a historic manager. He's got a good reputation, so he's probably a pretty good manager, but we'll see. He's won a World Series in 2002.
You tell me, is Mike Scioscia a good manager?
Overrated? I think he's a little overrated personally. Just because he's had good teams, so I guess not all of it is his fault, but a few years ago he ended up getting Jerry DiPoto, who's the Mariners GM, who makes all these trades all the time. He was the Angels GM, but there was a power struggle between him and Mike Scioscia, where Scioscia would seemingly go behind his back to the owner, Artie Moreno, and then Scioscia would end up getting his way, and that's how Jerry decided, hey, I'm leaving, I can't handle this anymore. And so Scioscia, in the past, worked out a deal where they traded a promising young catcher who's offensive-minded, but he wasn't the best at defense, and Scioscia is a stickler for catcher defense and just didn't seem to like him very well. So they rolled with Jeff Mathis, who's a career .220 hitter. And, he's not really that great. He's a hole offensively. So they traded Mike Napoli, promising young catcher, to the Toronto Blue Jays. Alex Anthopoulos, with the Blue Jays at the time, had him for about 5 minutes, worked out a trade with the Texas Rangers, and then he ends up going to Texas and basically crushes the Angels all the time. So it ended up backfiring on him. So he's just done some things like that where he personally didn't really like a player. So they ended up kind of getting sent out the door, even though it seemingly made the team worse. So just things like that. But I'm going to be interested to see what they do with people around Mike Trout now. But overall, he's been on the job for practically 20 years, so I guess he's doing some things right. It's just, he's really had that one really good year in 2002 when they won the World Series.
So how good you said his name was Shuhei Yoshida? Is that what you said his name was?
Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, who's Shuhei Yoshida?
I have no idea. I've never heard that name before.
Hang on. Let's all experience this together.
Oh my gosh.
Shuhei Yoshida. Shuhei Yoshida.
Wow, you actually found somebody. He looks really old.
He's the president of Sony's PlayStation division.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Wow.
That's where I've seen that name. Okay.
And Shohei Ohtani. He's arguably the best hitter in Japan, and he's arguably the best pitcher in Japan. He's a two-way star, DH, outfielder, starting pitcher, and they use 6-man rotations in Japan, so they only pitch once a week. So he got to play the outfield and hit quite a bit. And he's 23 years old, so he was available for a minor league deal.
Really good. Though.
He's really, really good.
Okay.
People are concerned how he's going to translate to the major leagues, but he was so good coming out of high school or whatever in Japan that he was tempted to skip the Japanese league altogether. But his dad was a star for the Nippon Ham Fighters, and he wanted to honor his dad.
Great name.
Hey. That's how they do it in Japan.
The Nihon Hand Fighters.
Nippon. Well, because the teams are sponsored.
Struggling.
The teams are sponsored, so it's Nippon Professional Baseball is the name of the league, and his team is also sponsored by Nippon. Yeah.
Hand Fighters.
The Ham Fighters.
Ham,
yeah.
Right, let's move on. I'm
okay.
struggling here.
You're struggling. But anyway, so he decided to play for the Ham Fighters, but they also seemingly had an agreement where when Ohtani wanted to be posted, he would be able to be posted since he honored the organization for those few years. So he's 23 coming over and is a superstar in Japan, but apparently he's pretty quiet and likes to keep to himself and kind of stay out of the limelight. So I think that's probably a motivating factor why he chose the Angels, because no matter what he does, he's in the shadow of Trout. So.
And it keeps him on the West Coast, which is closer to Japan.
Exactly. So he seemed to really be targeting the West Coast teams, except he really liked the pitch from the Rangers and the Cubs, but ended up still sticking with the West Coast. So we also have another baseball story to watch, also involving a megastar. Giancarlo Stanton looks like he is headed from the Marlins to the Yankees pending a physical, which is happening as we record the show. So yesterday, reports came out that Giancarlo Stanton had rejected a trade to the Cardinals. The Cardinals announced that, and a lot of people expected that. Giancarlo didn't seem to want to move to the Midwest, so ended up listening to the Cardinals and thinking about it for a while and rejected the trade. So a lot of people thought he in turn was going to choose going to the Giants so he could go back out to California and be closer to home. Then the Giants released a statement also saying that he has rejected the trade to the Giants. So then it puts the Marlins in a tough situation of trying to find new suitors for the Stanton market. And the Dodgers and the Yankees were on the outside of the Stanton market, and the Yankees decided to jump right back in here, and they negotiated a trade with Jeter and Michael Hill pretty quickly, and the framework of the trade is the Marlins sending Giancarlo Stanton and $30 million to the Yankees in return for Starlin Castro, the second baseman of the Yankees, who's on a 2-year, $22 million deal as it stands right now, and right-hander Jorge Guzman, who's the 9th-ranked prospect in the Yankees system, and shortstop Jose Devers, who is the 18-year-old younger brother of Red Sox phenom Rafael Devers. So this kind of goes against what the Marlins' objective was in the beginning, which is straight up dumping some salary, because they're ending up taking salary back on in Starlin Castro. But
it's only for a couple years, right?
It's only for a couple of years.
If you look at the full contract length, they dumped like $200 million, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Overall, and apparently...
I think that's what Jeter's worried about.
Because they're in so much debt right now, and especially since they bought the team. Jeter and Sherman bought the team, and they also took on a lot of debt to buy the team.
Right.
This is the most financed baseball ownership transfer there has ever happened. So there was a lot.
Idea.
It doesn't look great, but also what doesn't look great from a Marlins fan perspective is it was sort of out of his control anyway. But it also kind of looks like they negotiated good trades with the Giants and Cardinals, knowing full well that Stanton wasn't going to accept a trade to the Giants or the Cardinals, and in turn end up looking like taking a lesser deal from the Yankees.
Hey man, Jeter is the greatest Yankee. Once a Yankee, always a Yankee, am I right?
Always wearing the pinstripes is ingrained in the blood.
To be fair to Jeter, it's not his fault.
That
Stanton vetoed trades to
other teams. That's
teams
also
with
true.
Better offers. It's bad optics for sure.
It's another drop in the bucket for a bad look so far as Jeter as an owner.
It's kind of like when Kevin McHale sent Kevin Garnett
to the Celtics
for basically nothing. It's just a bad look.
Whether there were other offers and whether it was intentional or not, you have to factor in it's a real bad look because...
And you're already in a PR nightmare right now.
Because Jeter's tactics as an owner to this point have been widely panned by most.
Well, his whole philosophy right now is to cut payroll, cut payroll, cut payroll. And fans of a team, especially in baseball, where you're given a lot of flexibility over the salary cap, they want the owner to spend money. Like, we want the good players spend money.
And the thing that's sad from a Marlins fan's perspective is this is the third fire sale that's happened. And
in like the last 20 years.
Well, yeah, the team's only been around 20 years. They've won 2 World Series, and then immediately after both of those World Series wins, they basically sold everybody off. And then they get this new stadium, sign all these free agents, hire Ozzie Guillen, big fanfare, and then halfway through the season, they trade everybody off. So it's just basically status quo for Marlins fans. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of fans at Marlins games is because they just don't trust ownership, and they really didn't trust Jeffrey Loria, and now Jeffrey Loria is gone, and then now the first move of business for the new ownership is, let's trade our superstar and all of our good promising players here.
Especially when there was another person, I think it was like a businessman, but he was Cuban.
Jorge Mas.
He was from Miami,
yes.
And he wanted to buy the team and said publicly that he was going to spend money.
Yep.
And they still gave the team to Jeter.
Yep, Jeter and Sherman. Bruce Sherman is apparently a Marlins fan, but it's also Jeter and Sherman. And just to show some perspective, one of the main streets in downtown Miami near Biscayne Bay is named after Jorge Mas, who's the said businessman who was wanting to buy the Marlins.
Right.
So it's... A lot of Marlins fans were really wishing he had gotten the team because I really do think he would have found a way to keep it competitive.
There's 2 things that fans of professional franchises want, okay? One, pick your sports guys and get out of the way.
Right.
Don't have your hands and change your mind all the time and fire people. And it's the same issue that the Redskins have right now.
Like Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder just wants part of all the football decisions because he thinks he knows best. Number 2, spend money. Get big free agents. Spend to keep your guys here. You don't have to be the Yankees, but spend something.
Right.
If you're going to own a professional organization, you should... The thing that gets me is if you own a professional organization, you should know that a lot of individual seasons, you're not going to be in the black. A lot of times you're going to have operational losses. The reason you own the franchise is as an asset, because that asset goes up every year. The Marlins sold for like $1.1 billion.
Well, and exactly, and they financed a lot of that purchase price, and that's where a lot of the fans are upset. They're like, look, we didn't ask you to, stretch your pockets to the point where you can't afford to sign anybody.
You couldn't even afford to buy the team. How are you going to afford to keep it running?
Right, and you knew the team had some debt in place, and Stanton's contract was going up and up. So it's like none of us asked you to keep spending and spending and spending and paying $1.2 billion for the purchase of the team, only in turn to slash the payroll to like $75 million, which is unheard of for this day and age. Like the Tampa Bay Rays will have a bigger payroll than the Marlins.
That's crazy.
And that's...
The Rays don't spend on anybody.
Exactly. So that just goes to show you, and right now the Marlins had a payroll of about $115 million, which was even low for today's baseball standards, and they're dropping it to $75.
That's a huge cut.
And and they're wanting to make the money back, but they're not going to have any fans go out of their way to go to Marlins games.
They're not going to make the money back.
Well, no, because nobody's going to go to the games, and then also not only is nobody going to go to the games, they're basically taking away a lot of the culture that has already existed in the Marlins. Like Jeff Conine no longer being with the organization. Everybody loved walking around seeing Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin. They fired the broadcaster that, Rich Waltz, who's been there for years and years, that Marlins fans have grown accustomed to, been there since basically the beginning of the organization. And it's just a lot of little things like that that just would irk you as a fan.
It's a shame. And once again, since we're based in Florida, you feel for the Marlins fans. There aren't a ton of them, but they do exist.
They do exist. I know a few friends that are pretty diehard Marlins fans. I really feel bad for them. And honestly, I like the Marlins. I mean, there's no reason to really dislike the Marlins. I really enjoy going to games down there. It's fun environment and good culture and everything. It's a very enjoyable experience. It's just kind of sad to see the stadium sitting empty there, and the attendance had picked up because of Stanton's home run chase, and now I know all that's just going to be gone now since he's out of town. But we'll see what happens, see what Jeter and Michael Hill and company have planned, but looks like some downtimes for the Marlins and their players right now. And speaking of some downtimes,
oh God,
let's talk about the college football coaching carousel.
Oh man, college football. First of all, can I say, Tennessee, Philip Fulmer, I hate you guys. How this is one of the most embarrassing, bumbling. This is the most complete lack of understanding and total incompetence in the sport of football since the botched A.J. McCarron trade. And you
see a common connection?
You go, you go from hiring. If you didn't catch that joke, Haslam is the biggest Tennessee booster, the owner of the Browns. Anyway, you go from you're hiring Greg Schiano, who is by all rights a good football coach. He transformed a Rutgers program into an 11-win team, and they haven't done anything since he left. To not hiring him, but maybe you still owe him the money, to firing the AD and Philip Fulmer takes his place, to you want Dan Mullen, but Dan Mullen goes to Florida, and
you want Chip Kelly, you want Scott Frost.
You go after all these guys and they keep turning you down. And then you get Jeremy Pruitt, who a lot of people may not know. He was the defensive coordinator for Florida State for their national championship victory. Then he came to Georgia and turned our defense into a top 5 defense. And it wasn't that good before he got there. And then he went to Alabama, and this is his second year under Nick Saban.
And he's done great.
As someone whose team was coached by Pruitt for a couple years, by 3 years? I think he was at Georgia for 3 years.
I think he was.
He is a really, 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 really good football coach, and I can't believe they bumbled their way into getting such a good football coach. Of course, being a great coordinator and a great recruiter doesn't always translate to being a great head coach, but I think Pruitt has the right demeanor for it. And Tennessee somehow lucked their way into a really good football coach.
Honestly, when I saw this news, I was shocked. I really didn't believe it, because I was like, how in the world can Tennessee find their way into getting Jeremy Pruitt? And
how does Pruitt not have a better offer? Because Tennessee's in such a mess right now.
It really is weird, because I mean, both of us expected Pruitt to have a head coaching job by now.
We talked a couple years ago, before Mark Richt got fired, that Pruitt was going to get a head coaching offer any day now, because he's done such a good job. And it's amazing that this is the first time he's gotten an opportunity.
Right, and honestly, I think it has to be a big contract for him to even, because I think he knows he could sit around and do what Kirby Smart did, sit around at Alabama, keep competing for national titles, coaching under Saban.
He probably could have been the coach in waiting at Alabama if he wanted to.
Which is really what I thought he was going to do, because he's actually from Tuscaloosa, and that would be a big job for him and a big deal for him coaching, his alma mater, I believe. Because I believe he went to University of Alabama. Correct. And that's the thing. So, I mean, he had to have gotten a really big offer from Tennessee, and I have to believe that Phil Fulmer must have turned on the recruiting charm and recruited him like he did Peyton Manning back in the day. And
it's a chance for Pruitt to coach in the SEC against his former mentors, Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. And he was a secondary coach under Nick Saban when Kirby Smart was the D coordinator there at Alabama. So it's Pruitt's opportunity to prove himself against his mentors, and that probably has something to do with it as a competitor.
And honestly, just to talk about Knoxville a little bit, that is a great environment up there. It gets a little hectic and crazy as we've seen past few weeks with this coaching search, but if you have the support of those fans, I mean, that has to be very, very appealing.
I mean, you have a whole state all to yourself. That's always appealing in the South. You don't get that often.
No.
Even Kentucky doesn't have that state to themselves.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean,
Mississippi doesn't have that state to themselves.
I mean, really, you only have to worry about, and Tennessee's a pretty big state, you really only have to worry about Vandy when James Franklin was there.
Well, you have to worry about the other SEC schools coming in, but no kid growing up in Tennessee is a Vandy fan.
There's probably a few.
If their parents went there. Like, they're Tennessee fans if they're fans of college football.
You're right.
Assuming they root for a local team. They could always be
Bama fans.
Gator fans, Bama fans, whatever. USC fans, who knows?
Or on the other side of the state, Memphis fans.
I just can't believe they lucked themselves into a good coach. But good for you, Tennessee. It's a great hire. If I was a Tennessee fan, I would be thrilled because I would have assumed we were going to wind up with some garbage coach.
I was assuming either Phil Fulmer was stepping down from the office.
Oh, yeah. Like, this was going to go on a couple more weeks, and Fulmer's like,
we got a press conference to announce.
We're just not having luck with any of these coaches. And you know what?
No.
I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to coach this football team.
No, you know what would have happened, though? It's Phil Fulmer having this secretive thing going on. It's like, today we are going to introduce our new head football coach for the University of Tennessee. And right now we're going to bring him out. Phil Fulmer turns around, goes behind a curtain, pops back out behind the curtain. It's me, folks. I'm coming back. Coach him up.
It's not a full curtain. It's like a window curtain where he goes behind it and his feet are still sticking out. So he never really goes all the way back out. And then he pops them open. It's me, Phil Fulmer. You remember Peyton Manning? I can do that. You remember Peyton Manning? He was real good. I got him here.
Remember, I was in The Blind Side. We almost got O'Hare. Oh my gosh!
Good job, Tennessee.
Good job. Oh, anyway.
Right. Other coaching changes. Scott Frost goes to Nebraska, which was announced during their game against Memphis. I was watching that game and it went to overtime. And as soon as it went to overtime, I get an alert on my phone. Reports say Scott Frost has accepted the Nebraska job. So I don't know if he was like, "Hey, you're not allowed to release this information until the game's over." And that's
probably what it was.
And then the reporter didn't realize that the game had gone to overtime. Because it was legitimately as soon as regulation ended. Thank you. As soon as regulation had ended, I get the alert on my phone. And then the announcers on the TV say it, and it's embarrassing. Scott Frost is taking 10 assistants from UCF, almost all of them, and it's going to basically be the UCF coaching staff full and complete in Nebraska.
The thing that does save UCF a little bit here is they're keeping their offensive coordinator and announced that he wasn't leaving, and Scott Frost actually endorsed him for the head coaching position, but they said even if he didn't get the head coaching position, he had signed on to be the offensive coordinator. And his name is Troy Walters, I believe, which a lot of people were really excited about that he's sticking around because it keeps the scheme in place.
Now let me ask.
Yes.
The new coach that's coming in.
Josh Heupel. The hype is real.
Like, wouldn't he want to bring in his offensive coordinator? That's not the school's decision. Like,
I think
that's the head coach's decision to decide who's on his staff.
But I think he signed on with the knowledge that, hey, he is going to be your offensive coordinator. Because
that is how you start a situation poorly.
Well,
if you have an assist, you can't. You have to let the head coach be the head coach. You can't give him assistants and tell him he has to use them.
Well, I mean, you can, but I think...
No, but would you agree that it may work out? It's just an unnecessary risk to make it a worse situation.
I think it is, but I think they're so committed to Walters as a coach, and they really want to
hire him as the head coach.
Well, hey, maybe they didn't think he was ready, but this is the situation they've got, and Heupel signed on, and his buyout is so big, it's pretty much basically he's there for 4 years. So Walters may leave after a season and get a head coaching job. So it may be a mute point all at this point, or in the end. But right now, I mean, I think they're going to be fine because they keep their offensive coordinator with their younger guys who are sticking around at UCF. They get a good offensive coach to come in who's got a lot of endorsements from different people like Sam Bradford and a lot of the guys at Mizzou. And you also bring in Randy Shannon as the defensive coordinator who can help you with recruiting the state of Florida.
Well, I mean, the biggest boon to UCF is their quarterback's good.
Exactly. And
as you have, I think he's a sophomore this year. So you have one more year of
Mackenzie Milton. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like $165, but he's real good. He can sling it. You have one more year of a good quarterback at least. We'll see if his body fills out. If it does, he'll probably go pro next year. That's a nice start. UCF, they have a lot of talent on that team. A lot of it's leaving for the NFL this year. But, it's another situation where you feel bad for the players because not only did they lose their coach, but they had an undefeated season and they're not going to get a chance to play in the playoff just because of the way the schedule works out and their conference and that kind of stuff. But they had a great season.
Kudos heck of a turnaround and good luck in the bowl game.
And I think Scott Frost is a good coach, and he might finally be the one to turn Nebraska around.
We'll see. He's got plenty of incentive. It's his alma mater, and he former quarterback there and gets to go back home. And
he's not the first savior of Nebraska, though.
Right.
He's like the fourth.
So since the glory days. Remember Bo Pelini, the savior of Nebraska?
God.
One of the most recent ones? Oh, goodness. But other than that, we also have another big coaching change to announce. Willie Taggart coming back to the state of Florida
leaves
to coach the Noles.
Oregon after one season. It was interesting. You don't see this much where Oregon to Florida State, I think most people would agree, is basically a lateral move, right?
And
the program isn't really better at Florida State. It's not like he didn't have familiarity with the West Coast because he coached at Stanford.
Right.
So it's interesting that he was at South Florida for 4 years. Mm-hmm. He did a really good job at South Florida, saved the program that's been in disarray for a while, ever since, I don't remember his name.
Jim Leavitt.
Yeah, Jim Leavitt got fired.
Which is funny because Jim Leavitt is joining Willie Taggart at Florida State.
That dude's a good coach.
He's a really good coach.
He got USF to a number 2 ranking in the nation with no players. That's impressive.
That's very impressive.
So Taggart, after 4 years at USF, does a really good job building the program up, leaves it in a great spot for Charlie Strong to have a good year this year. Goes to Oregon to try and salvage that program. But
takes them to 7-5 without their starting quarterback most of the season. Which is pretty impressive.
And then he takes the Florida State job, which I wouldn't consider a promotion. I'm sure it's more money. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left because, let's be honest, that's the driving force most of all of our decision-making when it comes to switching jobs is the money. And it's part of it's got to be he loved Florida while he was here, and he really liked the recruiting here. But, it's real weird. After one season,
I have a couple of different things, tidbits to introduce
Lay
here.
them on me.
Okay, the one stat is Willie Taggart was technically at 3 different schools in a span of 365 days.
Yep.
Because he was at USF for 1 day, left for Oregon, was at Oregon for 363 days, and then was at Florida State for 1 day.
And him leaving USF was expected.
Yes, it was.
In the same way, 2 years from now, Charlie Strong will be moving on. It's a bridge program, which is, it is what it is. Same thing as UCF and Scott Frost. It's a bridge program. You expect this.
And
it's the Oregon one that's surprising.
This is what it is, though. He said a few different things. he actually really loved Oregon. Like, he really liked it out there, but he said a few things in his press conference at Florida State, which are pretty interesting. One of the quotes said, "You know how people say blood is thicker than water? Not in my household. At the University of South Florida, when they played the Seminoles, his brother is sitting in the stands all decked out in his Seminole gear saying, 'I'm sorry, bro, I love you, but I can't go against my Noles.'" Like, his whole family is Florida State all the way. This was his dream job.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't really know.
He's not alma mater, is he? It's not.
I don't think he went there, and that's what he said. He's like, "You would have expected all of us to have gone there for generations, but if you weren't a Noles fan in my house, you didn't last long." He's like, "We didn't really go there, but he's always grown up a big Noles fan."
I mean, that's the explanation right there. Like, I don't need it anymore. He's a lifelong Noles fan. Okay.
And apparently one of the things he tweeted out, his father passed away last year during fall camp at Oregon. So there's also the pull to come back home closer to his family. And he tweeted out one thing saying, "Lord, I trust you even when it doesn't make sense." And it's like, "Rest in peace, Dad," or something, because his dad was like a big Florida State guy. So I think this was really just kind of to honor him, saying that, hey, this is my dream job. Like, I know my dad would be so proud of me if I got to coach Florida State. And then that kind of pulled at his heartstrings. And then there's one other story he said. His 16-year-old son came into the room with Willie and his wife, and they're wrestling with the decision. And it's almost like they're leaning towards staying at Oregon because he would feel guilty if he left so soon. And this is out of nowhere. His son says this: "Dad, I know you're struggling with this decision. I know that's your dream job. You always tell me to chase my dreams and don't let anyone get in the way of it. I don't think it's right for me or anyone else to stop you from chasing your dreams. If you're going to chase your dream, I'm going to ride with you." And then he said, "It made me follow my own advice that I gave him. My wife and I just sat there and cried." So that was really the turning point in his decision.
So that's great. And I'm happy for Taggart. He's a good guy. He's a good coach. But all what you just said made me think of is the recruiting class that came in that he filled with promises about how he was going to turn.
I know, but it's Jimbo. Jimbo threw a wrinkle in this whole plan. I mean, did either of us expect Jimbo to leave? Because
but it's Taggart's decision, and I'm fine with his decision to leave, and I understand it's the system, but it just reminds me of this system where you convince these 16 and 17-year-olds to come play for you because you're going to be there for them. You're going to watch out for them for the next 4 years.
Well, those recruits can decommit now. I mean, they're not locked in. I mean, because he didn't really recruit a whole heck of a lot last year.
He would have recruited some.
He would have recruited some.
He would have had to convince the players to stay. That's part of it. I mean,
because there's a lot of recruits that have already switched from Oregon to Florida State now, and a lot of Florida State recruits have switched from Florida State to Texas A&M to follow Jimbo.
Oh, I know. And I know that's part of it, but those are the ones that hadn't signed yet. What about the ones what about the ones from last year that have? It's the system. I understand that. And I'm not going to fault Taggart for looking out for him, number one, and chasing his dream job, because that's what you should do. It just makes me feel for the guys that, they committed to Oregon, and then Taggart comes in and they don't know, they aren't sure, and Taggart comes in and convinces them that they should play for him for the next 4 years because he's going to be the guy. I mean, the solution to this is for the NCAA to allow open transfers.
Well, yeah, that'd be a solution.
Like
it's just, that's the thing. I mean, Willie Taggart took the Oregon job in turn because, I mean, did you think last year Florida State was going to be open in a year?
But by that logic, the Florida State job wasn't going to be open in several years.
That was part of his thinking. I mean, because honestly, what he's making it out to be is it was only because it was Florida State, and I happen to believe him in that because
I do too.
Because Oregon's a dang good job.
He's a very, very, very good guy who wouldn't lie about that. I'm not blaming him. I hope he was upfront with his players about it, unlike Brian Kelly. I hate you, you scumbag.
Or Jimbo, for that matter, who threw his Christmas tree out on the side of the road and then took off.
Or Jimbo, for that matter.
and then blamed his players and organization.
When this kind of stuff happens, it just makes me feel for the college.
I do. I'm with you.
And it would be fine, in my opinion. There's an easy fix for this. It's if a head coach is fired, the kids get open transfer same way that Ole Miss has open transfer.
Exactly, with the sanctions. Right.
Let the kids that bought into Willie Taggart follow him to Florida State. And the solutions, I mean, it's not a great solution because
it helps though.
Oh, it helps. It's way better than, because you still have, what if your family's from Oregon and you were all excited, it was the perfect situation. Now you're going to have to go to Florida and you didn't really want to move that far away. And how's your family going to get down there? Because they're not they're kind of broke and they can't afford to travel and all that kind of stuff. It would make it better.
And Willie was still heavily recruiting Florida. He was getting a lot of Florida guys to go to Oregon. I mean, he did last year. I mean, he's a really good recruiter, and that's one thing he does exceptionally well is recruit the state of Florida. Because he's been a high school coach here and dominated in high school.
I'm very happy for Taggart for getting his dream job because he's a great guy. I'm happy for Florida State because they got an exceptional coach. Well, maybe not exceptional. They got a good coach.
They got a really good coach.
They got a solid head football coach. It just, it makes me feel for the kids that were lied to. It always makes me think of the Muschamp story of it was like he was at Auburn, and wasn't the story like one of the parents asked him to promise that he was going to be there for 4 years for her kid, and he promised, and then the next year he was gone. Like, I mean,
I wouldn't have trusted Will Muschamp to tell me what the temperature is.
You have to trust.
I mean,
that's part of it though, because that's how you recruit these kids. Is you feed them. I mean, you have feed them promises, and that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't think really a lot of us expected Will Muschamp to really be at Auburn that long. I mean, I know the story. That's a bunch of crap.
No, but when he says to your face and seemingly honestly and sympathetically, "I'm going to be here for your son. Don't you worry about it. I've got him for the next 4 years."
Well, I mean, he will be there for her son as soon as he transfers to the University of South Carolina and sits out a year so he can go play for the Gamecocks.
That's my point. That's why I just hope Taggart was open and honest with his players.
And I personally haven't seen anything to the contrary. It wasn't like it wasn't like the Josh Heupel situation where that came out of nowhere and he's deuces from Columbia, Missouri, and his players didn't know about it, like Drew Lock didn't know about it, or where it's Jimbo Fisher not telling Francois, like, I thought we were supposed to be a family here, and then he's just basically, all right, throwing the Christmas tree out by the side of the street, and we're taking off for College Station.
You haven't heard anything publicly about an Oregon player, but to be fair, he's only been there a year. Only one class was his guys.
Exactly.
And they're freshmen. They're less likely to speak out. I just wish the NCAA acted a bit more fairly in situations like this. No, I'm not going to get into paying players. I'm going to keep it nice and light.
Because we're not talking about that different thing.
This nice and light.
It's a different topic.
On allowing open transfers in situations where a coach leaves or is fired from a school.
Yeah. Agreed on that.
It would be agreeing with me.
Yeah, well, it happens once every blue moon. I mean, you should just write it down.
Save the date.
What's today?
December 9th.
December 9th.
2017.
Weston agreed with Bradley in something to regards of college football and
first time
NCAA.
In human history.
First time in human history. But see, I'm with you, and it is unfortunate for some of those recruits, but I think it looks bad for Taggart, but like you said, it also lessons.
Horrible for Taggart.
It does. Like, if you didn't see that press conference, you just look at him like, you look at him like Bobby Petrino, who signed a 10-year extension with Louisville.
Lane Kiffin.
Exactly. Lane Kiffin, and then, better job, off to Atlanta, and then, rocky start here. I'm going to go to the University of Arkansas in the middle of the night saying pig suey at a press conference at 2 a.m.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's hopefully
good job, Florida State.
Good job, Florida State. I'm actually really surprised they ended up getting him and everything. And the big loser in this situation is Kevin Sumlin. That's all I got to say, because he had the UCF job locked up, wouldn't commit to them because he was wondering about the Oregon job. Willie Taggart leaves Oregon for Florida State. Kevin Sumlin expecting a call from Oregon. Oregon says thanks but no thanks and just promotes their offensive coordinator. So Kevin Sumlin, have fun hanging out at the house. Unless a lesser job opens up, but he's got plenty of money.
He's still getting paid.
That's right, getting all that College Station money.
Unlike those players. All right, let's move on.
All right, and we're about to run over the show here, but we talked earlier in the show about the Jaleel Okafor trade to the Nets. The Nets trade Trevor Booker to the 76ers and in turn receive Jaleel Okafor, Nick Stauskas, and the Knicks 2019 second-round pick.
Very quickly, the 76ers, I think, just wanted Okafor out of their locker room. The Nets get a guy that was widely regarded as the second-best prospect coming out his draft year. He's still really young. He's like 22. He looks like trash right now. Maybe he'll turn into something. It's a low risk, high reward type of play for the Nets, and the 76ers get rid of someone they didn't want anyway.
Exactly, and they also get the second and third overall pick from that draft as a fun fact and have given up basically peanuts to get both of them.
I said rapid fire. You got to talk quickly in rapid fire.
I did talk quickly. I just made it in my... Yes, it is.
Just end the show.
Fine.
I hate you.
No, you don't.
I love you.
You better.
I hate you. But I love you.
I hate you. I love you.
All right, thank you for listening. This has been the Rollout Show, episode 35.
This has been episode 35. Please reach out to us at the Rollout Show on Twitter and at the rolloutsports.com. We're going to be posting some more stuff up there. Keep you all entertained, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you.